Saba's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Gassman finds Saba.
Now Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
We knew it wasn't going to be long until Chansiri responded. He wasn't going to keep quiet for that long, was he? And lo and behold, this morning, there it was. His blow-by-blow, tit-for-tat account of what's happened between both himself and the Florida-based US consortium looking to purchase Sheffield Wednesday, the only interested party to have offered a formal bid. Amateurish, but not unexpected. Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. I'm James Mappin. This is yet another emergency podcast this evening where we're going to unpick the statement that Chansiri published earlier today, all 858 words of it. And no, I did not sit and count every single one. But with me to do just that is Mr. Matt Johnson. Matt, first of all, mate, how are you, pal? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, James. Not too bad. It's yeah, just another day, as you said, in the wonderful circus that is Sheffield Wednesday at the minute, isn't it? News was flowing thick and fast. Wouldn't it be great if we were just able to talk about the fixture releases?
Oh, yeah, Leicester at home. Leicester away, sorry. That's it. Finish that. That's done. Sunday afternoon, sorted. Yeah, Matt, like, did you think you were going to stay quiet for too much longer? Because, we normally have at least one statement at least every 2 months anyway. I don't know how long it has been since his last one, but it was well overdue, weren't it?
Yeah, he was well overdue. It's not the statement that I thought he was going to make. I thought it was going to be about, the wages are taken care of, or I'm really struggling to pay the player wages, or the tax bill, or the training ground, or anything like that. But no, out of the blue comes huge statement surrounding a bid and all of the noise that's been made on social media by ourselves and other platforms, James.
Yeah, what you mean is you thought he was going to give a bit of clarification on the situation, not just kind of he said, she said.
Yeah, I thought, but I mean, actually, now I've said that out loud, what a fucking stupid thing to say. Because of course that was what it was going to be. It was never going to be any real answers, was it? Because the real answers are so horrendous. It was a really interesting statement. There was a lot of things that were said in it, but by God, was it long again, which is, the last statement that he made was what? A paragraph, and that was about not paying people. This one, in a he said, she said, it's a full written document account, like it felt like a diary entry at times.
It was funny when I put that tweet about, the whole Eminem stan, kind of him writing the diary, and you put it literally about 50 seconds before I did. So you just beat me to it. And disclaimer, no, we'd not spoken to each other before that point. It was literally such a coincidence, weren't it, that we'd both put that out. But it did feel like that, didn't it? It does feel like it was like a Dear Diary entry. The way that you're reading it, you're thinking, this is a professional football club. Do you know what I mean? I'm not reading like a post on Facebook from my auntie Barbara or whatever. This is a company. This is from a company that, millions of pounds transfer hands, over the course of the year, and yet we're having just an online spat. But he's done it before, and so we shouldn't really be, surprised, should we?
No, we shouldn't. We've been here before with this current chairman. We will be here again at some point when things don't go his way and he's able to chuck his toys out the pram. Just a real mess. And as you say, it's a respectable business. Well, it's supposed to be a respectable business, but it's also supposed to be a business that represents 40 to 60,000 fans. Yeah. And if you are the figurehead of that, I don't think this is something that he's ever understood. When you speak, you are speaking on behalf of everybody, and you're tarring everybody with the same brush, if that makes sense. Because as you've said a number of times, James, whenever you do a preview show, which, we're rapidly approaching doing those again, everybody goes, what the fuck's going on with your owner? He's nuts, isn't he? And you just kind of sit there and think, what? We all think so as well. It's so mental.
If he's still here with for the start of this season and go, and obviously however long it's going to be until he does go, genuinely, when I get asked that question, I don't really know what I'm going to answer with, because I'm like, how long you got? Like, do you know what I mean? I don't think I can really condense it into like a 1 minute, 2 minute answer. Like, I think, it's like an hour long, because where do you start? Like, where do you go back to? Like, do you know what I mean? I can't just start from, you didn't pay the players. Like, you've got to go back to kind of, do you go back to when he sacked Darren Moore? Like, when he got rid of him? Do you go back? Do you just go back to the Cisco press conference? Like, there's so many points that you can go back to, and it just, it's just absolutely mind blowing when you actually sit down and think about it. Because the guy that, apologies, I forget his name, the guy that came on the debate show, who was 17 years old, he was saying, like, all I know is Dejphon Chansiri. That's all he has known throughout football, is an absolute batshit crazy owner. I mean, we haven't been blessed with too many great owners, let's say, have we, in his past. But by God, like, imagine only knowing life under Dejphon Chansiri.
Yeah, on the plus side, I say this because it can't get any worse, surely. Clip it if it does. Clip it if it does. But surely this cannot get any worse than this fucking circus that's currently going around us. Just on that,
have you seen there's a huge flag at Glastonbury, the Mick McCarthy one? Yeah, I've seen that. That is absolutely quality, that one. As always, get your comments in. I want to know what you think of that statement that was put out earlier on today. That is what we're going to be talking about, of course. If you've come here to hear us talk about Danny Röhl and that situation, and like who the next manager is going to be, I know it's not been confirmed yet, but writing is on the wall. He wasn't there today. Pedersen was, that sort of thing. We're going to be talking about that on Sunday, so make sure you join us at the regular time and date of Sunday at 8:00. But yeah, let us know what you thought when you first read that statement. But Matt, like, what do you think his purpose was? What do you think he was? What do you think he's trying to do there? I mean, obviously, he's clearly trying to put right some irregularities that or things that he feels have been spoken about wrongly in the media. What was he actually trying to achieve? Because for me, I don't think it achieves anything other than his own kind of personal pride. Like, just that he feels they were wrong and he wants to put that right. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't really give a shit. Like, if it were 50 or 60 million or 70 million that he's been offered, if he rejected it, like, it's not like it gets to a point where he has to accept it over a certain figure. We can all say that he should and shouldn't, but ultimately, don't give a fuck. Just I don't really care.
I think the way that I took it was the purpose of the statement was twofold. One is to try and pour cold water on the Florida-based consortium, because they, whether people agree with it or not, have used some elements of the media to court I don't want to say publicity, because I think that's wrong. I think it's publicity from the fact of, look, we are here. We are actually making tangible bids. I don't think it's from... I think
they're trying to get traction. I think they were trying to get traction from fans and get them on board, because when it does happen, it's just a lot easier. Or if it doesn't, if it does go a little bit wrong, people are like, you need to accept it. Do you know what I mean? It might not mean anything, but I think it's just that bit of weight behind it, I guess, and getting the fans buying, I suppose.
Yeah, I think there's that. So I think the first one is obviously pouring cold water, laying scorn, rubbishing, tarnishing, whatever you want to call that. I think the other one is because the club have remained so silent on everything surrounding Sheffield Wednesday. You can't, I suppose, if you're in Chansiri's position, you can't really come out with, and I'm not going to be able to pay the player wages again, and the HMRC bill's not been paid. If that is the case, you can't come out with that next piece of news. You've got to come out with, but look at what somebody else has done. Oh, by the way, your wages aren't going to get paid again. It feels like there's obviously been a lot of negativity. It felt to me like it was, one, obviously pouring scorn and hot and cold water on that bid, but it was also trying to paint it out of, look, I'm not the only one who's a problem here. Nobody's a saint in all of this. Personal opinion, I don't really think it did any of that. I think it just made him once again come out looking like a bit of an idiot, because again, as everybody has said rightly or wrongly, whether they would prefer this to be done behind closed doors or anything like that, this is just proof of why nobody will deal with you unless you sign non-disclosure agreements. This is just further proof of it, because if you sign or you enter into any sort of an NDA, even if you just get to the initial bid stage, guess what? No one can talk about it. The other side can't talk about it. You can't talk about it. It protects everybody within that bidding process, so everybody can save some sort of face. But that constant deal of, I'm not signing one, he uses as, that's not how business is done. It should be done on a firm handshake and, a gentleman's agreement, which is total bollocks in the modern day of doing business in the modern world.
He isn't acting like a gentleman in any way, shape or form, is he? You know what I mean? He's just going off spouting, no, that's wrong. He said, she said, whatever, he did it with Darren Moore. I'm not going to say anything on the matter. Give me a week and I'll tell you everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not acting, like I say, he's not acting in a gentlemanly way like he said he's going to. Like, and like you said, now it's just going to scare other people off. Like, why are they going to come forward when they just know he's just going to, if it doesn't go according to plan, he's just going to tell everyone. He's got loose lips, like I don't know what. Like, I'm sure there'll be someone in the comments that's put in some inappropriate comment in a second, but based on that, but I just I agree that the NDA stuff. That was months ago, weren't it? That we found out that he wasn't going to sign one of those, and it's not really got him anywhere, to be honest. I'm just going to read a comment out. I just saw it earlier. Something about that a fee was agreed. I can't find it. Apologies if it was you that you had said that. And it does actually say that in the piece that you put out. I agreed. I did not wish to let anyone down. I wanted to finish. I agreed, and the price was agreed. Then it goes on to say that this is all to do with the £5 million that he wanted. He wanted a £5 million upfront payment. He agreed to take 2.5, and he also said that would be returned if the deal didn't happen. Matt, just on that, a lot of people have jumped on that and said, look, they've definitely not got the money. He also says himself that that's the reason why he didn't go ahead, because it just proved to him that they haven't got the funds. They're not, which I think is a bit rich coming from someone that currently can't pay the players. But anyway, who's he to say that someone has or hasn't got any money? Which I find baffling. But also, why would you give someone some money that, again, clearly has none? Why would you give someone 5 or 2.5 million? The deal breaks down, and you go, Dejphon, can I have that 2.5 million back? And you go, I've paid wages now, mate. Like, I can't give it you. Because that's what's going to happen. The company is insolvent. They can't pay the current bills that they have to pay now. So how are they going to give that money back? I mean, there's the argument of, if you're willing to spend, £100 million on something, then surely you can lose 2.5. But I mean, people were kind of comparing it to spending £2.5 million on Ugbo. Not really true, because you're literally getting fuck all for your £2.5 million. Like, you're getting nothing for it. At least you get a player for that. It's just unfortunate that he wasn't very good. Like, there's £2.5 million to effectively have a chat with someone. Seems a little bit. You just wouldn't do it. I mean, someone else maybe. You're certainly not going to do it with Dejphon Chansiri, knowing what we know.
No, I wouldn't lend him £3.10 for 2 hours worth of parking, James, because I'm never going to see it again. The other thing on that is, as you say, like the lending of however much it was, whether it was 5, whether it's 2.5, whatever it is. Bear in mind, this is a person who you've previously entered into a sponsorship agreement with, and then they've moved the goalposts, and then they've come out and straight away rubbished you in January in a fans forum. So why are you going to decide to lend them any more money? Why are you going to decide to now trust them? Just because you as a person are going, oh no, don't worry, but forget all of that. Now is your time to trust me because I'm desperate. No, that's not how this works. It's not how it should go. 5 million is, I don't care what anybody says, whether you're talking about buying a club for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 million. 5 million is not an inconsequential number. And it's also the frivolity of what he says further down in the statement of one of the consortium has a UK bank balance, a UK account. This should be a relatively easy, like I'm just Monzoing or Revoluting somebody 5 million quid. Like I'm just going, oh, hang on, just send us your PIN or your QR code and I'll just drop it in the account.
Hey mate, have you got PayPal? Just want to just what's your URL? I'll just fire it over to you. Like
it's just again, and I'm certainly not saying that everybody has got that money there. I'm not saying they have or they haven't. What I am saying is this is a significant amount of money. And if you were being asked to do that, I personally would want some legal paperwork drawn up so that if this goes south, I'm not just transferring you the money on good faith because you have done everything in horrendous faith so far.
You mean legal paperwork drawn up for like a sponsorship agreement as well?
Yeah,
so that they can't turn around and kind of double it a little bit later
something
on.
like that, James. Something like that.
Yeah, that's probably, because I think he's been burnt by that before, hasn't he? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Funny that. Another thing you mentioned, Matt, is that the amounts that were mentioned by the consortium for both bids were both inaccurate. He says that the first bid was $40 million plus future payments. Doesn't really clarify how much those future payments were, but he also goes on to say it wasn't $65 million, which just to kind of that $40 million is 29 to 30 million pounds. It then goes on to say that the second bid was 40 million pounds plus future payments, not the guaranteed $75 million as reported, and $75 million is 54 million pounds at today's current exchange rate. So a 50 million pound discrepancy there. Again, like, I suppose if he thinks it's wrong, then fair enough. He's coming out to try and to say what it was, but also, again, it goes back to that point of I don't really. It's almost irrelevant. Like, I didn't accept it anyway, so what's the point? I don't know. I don't see that was just for his own gain or to kind of ridicule the consortium and call them out as liars, I guess.
Yeah, I think the discrepancy between the two parties in the fees being quoted is, very noteworthy, because somebody is omitting or bending truths here, or as we consistently say, James, the truth is somewhere in the middle. But let's just take that second bid of 40 million plus future payments. That's market value for the club. Based off what we heard from on this podcast from Kieran Maguire, anywhere between 40 to 50 million. It's the low end of it, okay, but that is market value for this football club. I know other people have said, no, it's worth 50 or 60. Now we're getting into the realms of you buying potential. You're not actually looking at what the asset is worth. We said when this entire process started, James, when we started to put a value on the club, we reckoned it sat around 40 million quid because of how depreciated the asset is. If you are going in from a bidding perspective, and we're just using the facts and figures that Dejphon here has given, and whether they are truth or not, again, it depends on who you believe, I suppose, because we've got two very, very contrasting reports here. 40 million to me seems a very fair offer with future payments guaranteed. For what it is, you're effectively getting back exactly what you put into the football club. Yeah, it's unfortunate that you've done 190 million, but it's not appreciated in any value in any way, shape or form. It's actually in a worse condition than when you bought it. So actually what you're doing is still getting a better deal than what you paid for. I just can't believe that he's absolutely ran us into the ground, and yet it's still worth, in this case, £40 million. Like, it should be worth absolutely nothing the way that it is at the moment. Do you know what I mean? When you think about it, like how can he run it so bad and still walk away with £40 million? All right, he might owe that to certain people, certain places, whatever else. But like, we're not talking like, a couple hundred grand, like 40 million. Like, it just baffles me that the sort of numbers that we're still talking about for something that is effectively broken. Like, when you think about it, like the everyone's been putting the long lists out of all the things that have been going wrong, and yet someone will still buy that for, in this case, £40 million plus a bit more if they manage to
have a doer-upper.
Sorry,
Dejphon
James, I just
Chansiri
highlighted this one because Dejphon's in here listening. I need money for my debts. The other one here, which is from Lee Newton, agree 40 million max. If we go into admin, it's got to be half that. That hasn't even been discussed yet in terms of what it's actually going to be worth if that does come and does become the case, what the club is worth. Because currently, again, to borrow a very famous Chris Wilder quote, former Sheffield United manager Chris Wilder quote, I don't know where they've got their squad value from. Someone's been on transfer market. I have, Chris. Our squad's worth 20 odd million. So we're talking the rest of it, a badge, effectively, a training ground that has the fans, a training ground that hasn't got any pitches, a first team pitch that isn't ready, a stand that may or may not be open, no manager, no coaching. We can continue rattling off this list here. Is worth the other 18 million. Again, personally, I think if you had a person of sound business acumen currently in charge of the club and was an honourable business person and was an honourable person in terms of sticking to their word, they would look at it and go, do you know what? I've done my bollocks here. 40 million. Like, that's what it's going to cost. Like, that's what it's going to cost to get me out. I just want what I put into the club, and I'll just write the rest off as a bad job. Because at some time you do just have to hold your hands up and go, these are my mistakes.
Yeah, and there's sunken costs as well. Like, you know, all the 160, 190 million, whoever you want to believe, that, you know, that's some of those costs are just like, you know, putting petrol in your car. Like they just happen to, they're just costs. Like that is just how it is. You know, you can't recoup every single pound note that you put in there. So yeah, he just needs. I just find it really annoying and frustrating the fact that, you know, this time last week we kind of had three potential parties. You know, there was the American consortium that had been here for quite some time, still trying. Milan Mandaric entered the fray last week. You know, you were going to try and do something. We had John Texter as well. He said, I think, well, there's going to be a bidding war. And then literally 7 days later, bang, 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 both. They've all pretty much gone. I know the Florida consortium haven't, but they've, you know, like you said, he's tried to pour cold water on him. Doesn't seem like he's very interested in entertaining any sort of offer because, you know, he had to wait 45 minutes on a Zoom call. Matt, that was. I was reading it, thinking like, am I reading this right? Like, do I need to know this information? I don't feel like I do. I said that to myself numerous times whilst I was reading this today.
Yeah, there was several moments where I was sat there and I was like, is this genuinely, I mean this very nicely, is this relevant? Like, is this relevant? Basically, you are trying to come out and say, look, you could have come out and just said, the facts and figures that were quoted in a recent article, from my perspective, weren't what they were. Here are what the facts and figures were. Demands weren't met. As a result, this is what's happened. And this is what's going to happen going forward with player wages and all the rest of it. That would have actually been giving the fans some answers. This, as we've said right from the start of this, obviously, James, 20 odd minutes ago, this is just, right, I'm getting involved in a slagging match and I'm bringing it back down to here. So, yeah, he is a nicest will in the world. When you are in this position, and you do something like this, you just open yourself up for more ridicule from nicest will in the world, James, people like me and you.
Well, yeah, and you know what as well? Again, I come back to the whole people want the news or people want information until they get the information and then they don't want it as well. Like, because everyone's been saying, you know, silence from Dejphon. All right, admittedly, nobody were really saying, what are you going to say about what the Florida consortium have said? You know, are you going to respond? Most people were probably talking about the wages, you know, the staff wages, the HMRC bill, and all that sort of stuff. Because, you know, to be fair, and I do agree, really, he should come out and say, like, if I was the chairman and I had the money, I would come out and say, I've sourced the money. Or I have enough money. Yeah. I have enough money to satisfy the player wages for the foreseeable future. Do you know what I mean? Like the staff and player wages for the foreseeable future. Apologies for the what. Do you know what I mean? Like a bit of
yeah,
a bit
Soz,
of fluff.
but Soz, what this is what's gone. This is what's going to happen moving forward. The
Yeah.
manager's going. I'm able to fund the wages. We've got a transfer embargo. We need to all get behind everybody. Like that would have been
Good luck for the
professional.
season.
Poor, but yeah, good luck for the season. I'll see you for this exact same scenario in 12 months' time, or until the football regulator comes in. You won't be hearing from me again. That would have been horrendous, but would have actually given some form of answers. All this is. And you've said it there, James, the omissions are more what is the telling story here. The omissions of what is actually not being said, because he hasn't clarified anything about wages. He hasn't clarified anything about players moving forward. He hasn't given an update on the grounds for appeal from the EFL. He hasn't given an update on SAG. He is effectively coming out and just going, well, I ain't really got much positive to say, so I might as well slag them off as well.
Yeah, if I'm going down, I might as well take someone else with me as well.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's some like questions that kind of come off the back of it. To be fair, but like I said, well, I think we've already touched on it. Really, like who's really going to get involved now? When you think about it, I know Milan Mandaric has come out and said that there are many interested parties. Now, obviously, one of those. We thought was him. Mm-hmm. I just don't see who's going to come forward and try and engage with Dejphon Chansiri, meet his demands, his ridiculous demands, put themselves up to be slagged off if something even goes awry, pay over the odds for a football club, unless they are emotionally invested. And if you were, you would have come forward already, I feel. Do you know what I mean? If you was actually genuinely interested in buying the football club as a Sheffield Wednesday fan, you would have already done that. I feel we're in this middle ground now where nothing's going to happen until administration. I know a lot of people have said that. I still feel we need some clarification as to like when that would possibly happen, because he doesn't. To my knowledge, he's not. There's a loan against the stadium, but obviously he doesn't. The club doesn't own that stadium, so that's not really effectively our problem. That's his problem personally, or Sheffield 26's problem, or whichever number he's put it under now. There's people said HMRC could take him. Could file for administration, but I don't think they're going to do that on one missed payment. To my knowledge, well, up until this month, we must be up to date with HMRC payments. So then, I don't feel like that's going to be one strike and you're out. Like you're not going to, do you know what I mean? You're not going to file for administration immediately. Surely that'll be kind of like another 30 days or 2 months, 3 months or whatever.
Yeah. It's a long drawn out process. It doesn't administration. Obviously, we touched on it with Kieran Maguire when he was gracious enough, obviously, to come on the pod. It's not like an instantaneous, right, you're in administration now, we can get this sorted. It's a long drawn out process where you've got to notify the club have got to have lawyers get involved, they can then appeal it, they can then do this, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole long drawn out process before somebody actually gets their hands on in the situation. And even then, the administrator, if I'm not mistaken here, James, has to be appointed by the board. So effectively, it's somebody that Chansiri will just appoint, which you could just negate all of this by just appointing a broker to go out and find you a buyer, like you told the fans to do, and like a fan has come out and done, which you acknowledge in this statement. It is so stupid, so stupid to go down that route when all of this could have been saved. And it does just go back to that evidence of this is just for ego. That is all this is for. It is just from an ego perspective. And now you are in a situation where that is all you've got left, because you haven't got the funds to make this continue and you haven't got the funds to make this run.
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, by the way, or anything you want us to talk about, do get them in the comments over on YouTube and on X. Obviously, we're live. But yeah, I do agree. It is just for his own, like I said, for his own personal pride more than anything. He feels like he's been attacked. He feels like he needs to get this message out, and it doesn't. the fan base, like you mentioned, the 40, 50, 60, 70,000, however many Wednesday fans there are out there looking at this, like just thinking, what is all this about? Like, what is it? It just doesn't really achieve anything at all. I mean, Matt, has the mood around Sheffield Wednesday been as low as this in the history of the football club? Obviously, I know we can't speak for the good old days and the times that apparently were like really, really bad in the 70s or whenever it was. But have you ever known it being this bad?
Me personally, I wasn't consciously supporting Sheffield Wednesday in the way of like taking really casting an eye over ownership in the Dave Richards era, in the subsequent like eras that followed that. I think my first conscious recognition of kind of like football supporter ownership was Lee Strafford, and then subsequently Milan Mandaric and so on. That was when I took real, I suppose, focus onto football ownership and became really, again, consciously aware of how important an owner of a football club is. Before that, I would say I was probably the naivety of anywhere between 7 to 16, 17-year-old, where like I was able to just focus on going to the game and the players and the manager, and I liked the wider football thing, but it wasn't necessarily, I suppose I didn't realize how intrinsically linked the two were. That's probably a fault on my part, because there will be 16, 17-year-olds now who have just grown up with this, so they have to educate themselves on it. As we were talking about the young man who rang up about the debate show yesterday, I think the situation surrounding ownership now is as dark as it has ever been at any point in Sheffield Wednesday's history. And I can only give that because it's based off and goes off what older generational fans are saying. This is as bad as it has been. And it's not necessarily because of the level of football. It's not necessarily because there are administrators in. It's because we've watched the club slowly rot and decay over 10 years. It's not a really fast process.
Yeah, Chris has come out and said it was far worse than this for the last year or so before Milan took over. Obviously, I know we nearly kind of went to the wall, didn't we, with tax payments back then. And obviously, he was the knight in shining armour that came and saved us. So I feel like the difference now is the social media aspect. Us talking on this medium, that wasn't there before. So you was just reading the Star and the Greenan and talking to your mates in the pub and stuff like that to kind of get all the news. Whereas now it feels like it is literally 24/7 constantly, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And this one's from Jack here. I was born in 77 and can't remember a worse time than this. You're right. I do think social media does play, obviously, a role within it. But I also think that there is more information that is publicly available to you now. And I'm not just talking about, platforms like ourselves. I'm talking about the fact that your traditional or more traditional media outlets, in terms of your newspapers, previously now websites, your local radio, there is more content. They do have more access. They do. I don't want to discredit journalists from previous times, but they do have more of a switched on nuance about the inner workings of football, perhaps because they have to, because football ownership is such a wider topic of discussion in modern day football than it previously was, if that makes sense.
Everything's online, isn't it? The EFL handbook is online. Like before, you might have had to go and get the actual handbook. Do you know what I mean? Like now, it's just a PDF document. Same with Company's House. Company's House is now all online. Like you can just find all that information. It's all kind of readily available to not just the people that need it, also to the people that want to do whatever, like me. Like I ain't got a clue what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the accounts. Like just a load of numbers and a load of words that I haven't got a clue what they mean. So yeah. We asked some questions. We have got a few. We've got one from Rob Oldfield. Says, after reading the statement today, what's both your gut feelings moving forward and the future of the club? I'll answer that one first. I think for me, moving forward, my worry is that he is just going to limp over the line, and we're just going to be, we said like last season it were just keeping the lights on, barely keeping the lights. And I feel like that's what it's going to be like. There could be an element of some players could leave in a little over 2 weeks' time if they kind of hand the notice in, if they don't get paid. there's an element of me that thinks he might actually want that. Some of these, really, really thin down the money that is, that he's spending on everywhere. Really, there might not be a pre-season training camp. That might save him a couple of quid. All these things that might potentially happen. Appointing a new manager. Well, we'll just appoint Henrik Pedersen. That saved me a few quid. I'll just pay him a really shit wage. I feel like he might just really, like I said, thin it down, hardly sign any players. We'll just end up, and he'll just get it to a point where he can just exist on the money that's kind of coming in. Some people will be like, oh, he's created a sustainable football model. The problem is we'll be, relegated by Christmas. Do you know what I mean? That's
when's the first derby? End of November?
Cry. It could be a chasm between the two.
If they thought 30 points at the end of a season was great, fucking hell, I've got some good news for you on the other side of the city this year. It might be 30 points by then.
Yeah, that is my worry, that he is just going to limp over the line, get the Sky money. There's going to be, season tickets will go on sale. We'll buy them. I mean, I know there's a lot of people saying, don't buy the kits, don't buy, and if that's what we want to do, great. And I do agree with it, like hitting him where it hurts. But I mean, Christ Almighty, he hasn't got any money now. And he ain't selling it now when he's got no money. Do you see what I mean? Like, just not buying the shirts and stuff. Yes, I feel like all it's gonna do is hinder yourself. Like it's gonna hurt you you're not gonna have the shirt. Your kids aren't gonna have the shirt, and he might still be here. He might just keep just bumbling on. He's not. He's probably just think, I've lost, I don't know, 100 grand.
Yeah, another couple of million. Just add it onto the pile. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, James. Just to go back and answer Rob's question, how do I see this ends? I think again the same as what we were talking about here, James. Right at the start of the summer, I still think there's a window here for somebody to buy it. I still do firmly believe that there is a window for somebody to buy it, because that is as close as you are ever going to get to this narcissist giving you a come and get me play. Of like, come and make me a sensible offer. What a sensible offer is, who the fuck knows? Like, who knows? I mean, quoting 40 million and that was accepted if you can give me a 5 million upfront cash deposit. Bear in mind, I'm sure there would be a line of people around the block ready to offer 40 million for this football club. We'll soon see whether that line around the block is actually true, first and foremost. Secondly, we'll soon see whether he's prepared to accept actually the money that he's previously said that he would accept. From people who very clearly buy this, he doesn't respect in terms of their business acumen, because otherwise why would he be coming out and speaking about it and putting out such a derogatory statement, trying to pour cold water and scorn on them. I personally see this ending the same way that I've seen this ending for a long time. Football regulator comes in and takes the club off him, but by that point we're already in League One and it's an even more of a mess.
Yeah, I agree. Joel has come out and said, do you and Matt think he'll carry on once the season starts with the money he will see? I suppose that's kind of like the same question we just really answered.
I think from my perspective there, I don't think the money that he receives is going to be enough to sustain it, because I do think that the average match day revenue, like the match going fan who is, like your more traditional walk up or your memberships, I do think you'll see a drop off in that. We have seen a drop off in season ticket renewals. I do think you're going to see the similar sort of drop off in that as well, because the prices will still remain high. He's not all of a sudden going to go, well, I've got no money anyway, so fuck it, it's 20 quid a ticket. Like, they're still going to be like, the first game at home is, who's the first game at home, James? Remind me.
I didn't even look that far. Do you know what? Just on fixtures, I really didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I looked at who the first one was. I looked at when the derbies were. I saw, we're at home on Boxing Day, but we're going to be absolutely dog shit. So that's going to be fun. I really did. I was kind of looking at them, and it wasn't even going in. I really just didn't care.
But yeah, as G's just put in the chat here, so it's Stoke City, the first home game. That'll still be 46 quid. Like, it's not going to be cheap. Like, and why would you go and watch this, especially if after the first game of the season we've got absolutely spanned? Like, people just won't go, and then what will start happening is those crowds will start to dwindle. Now, people may pay a ticket for the £46 just to go and protest, because I would imagine that the trust will be putting something together for a protest perspective. I think you're going to end up in a situation like Reading were, where they were in the depths of it and games were being stopped, things were being postponed, because we have seen some noise from nobody from the trust or nobody from those kind of outlets, but we have seen some fans saying that might be the only way that this needs to change. I'm sure, say for argument's sake, Rob and Jim, who were previously involved in the 1867 group, may have some thoughts on that. But again, I don't think he's going to be able to. You're going to continually have missed payments, missed wages, tax bills that don't get paid, because he's proved that when we haven't known about all of this type of shit. So that is just coming again further down the line.
And do you know what, as well, I'm thinking about it, like, if we get points deductions, which I think if we miss the wages again this month, then that's a sanction that probably could be coming our way, because we've already been given one of the biggest possible sanctions in the 3-window transfer fee ban. So the next thing is points deductions, whether that's a 3 or a 6, or who knows, we could start the season, could be 12 points adrift. And that's just a massive smack in the face for the players as well. Obviously, it is for us as fans, because you're effectively, we're back to where we were kind of last time we got relegated. Yeah. But for the players as well, like they're now having to go out there. They don't know if they're going to get paid or not. They're going out there, put 110% effort in on a season that's not been prepared well whatsoever. No. And they're already starting 12 points behind and probably, almost certainly going to get relegated. And it's just that whole, I don't really think, he tells us that he cares, and he tells us that he wants to do the best for the football club whilst it's burning. It is the meme, innit? It's fine. It is that meme where it's burning all around and he's just in his own little world thinking that everything's going to be all right, and it really, really isn't. And now it's got to a point now where it's not one thing, it's 10 things coming at him at all different angles, and I just really don't know how he can have the cheek and to start rejecting bids. Like, how are you doing that? Literally, it's like you always go back to the car analogy, don't you? You've written your car off and someone goes, I'll give you $1,000 for that. And you go, nah, mate, I think I can get a bit more than that. He's smashed it. Literally, people are willing to pay for this football club, and he's turning them away. I just cannot believe the cheek of him. And again, to mention, I don't think they've got enough money for the football club. I mean, come on, mate. Yeah. I'm sure, let's just say Barry Bannon hasn't been paid. I'm sure Barry Bannon is delighted that you don't think this consortium hasn't got enough money when he's there going, oh yeah, I've not been paying wages this month.
Because also
I'm probably not going to be paid on Monday either.
Sorry, James, for cutting you there. Because it's also not up to you. It's not up to you whether they have the money. The proof of funds and all of the rest of it will be sorted in the wash of it when it goes to, are they fit and proper? It will go through to it when you have to submit statements to people. It just, again, it's excuses for excuses' sake of not wanting to sell the club to the only consortium that have actually tangibly bid for the club. Because to everybody else's knowledge, there are several interested parties, according to what other people said, but there have only been 2 bids for this football club, and it's from the same consortium.
Yeah, Tom said, to what extent would Chansiri lose control if we did go into administration? In other words, would he be out of the way to allow a buyer to swoop in? He doesn't have any choice in the matter, does he, Matt? If it goes into administration, the administrators choose who is buying the football club. That is my understanding anyway.
The administrators that are appointed by the club. They choose who it is and they will just sell it. But if a price can't be agreed, then you end up in the situation that Bury FC went into, which is their owner put them into administration, asset stripped it, and then went, I don't agree with any of those prices. Yeah. Because you are the person who appoints the... I could be wrong here. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure that was what I remember from that Kieran Maguire situation, because he was suggesting that administration didn't seem a realistic possibility because it was from the board of directors and he didn't think that we were there yet. And the administrator is appointed by the board of directors. Again, I could be wrong, and I am happy to be proved wrong on that situation.
Yeah, Andy said, my biggest fear is the club ceasing to exist. I can't possibly comment on that matter, so I'll move swiftly on that one.
I will say I don't think that is a possibility, James, because I always think that this is going to be an attractive enough proposition to somebody.
Yeah, like, was it Mike Ashley? I think I don't know where the quote come from, but apparently he said he was just going to come and, he was just wait until he goes into administration and pick it up for, a fraction of the price that he's asking for.
Of course, sorry, I'm just really grateful that Natalie came up where we were trying to bundle through all of that admin stuff. HMRC would be a winding up order, and Marco has also put he's the main creditor, so he won't put himself into administration.
But HMRC would if it got to that point, and I think Natalie also said as well, it's the penalties as well that go on top of that, and I think they're kind of proportionate to the amount that is owed as well. So that just keeps getting more and more and more, and can't start snowballing. So once you get into a bit of trouble, you're quite quickly into a lot of trouble.
Sorry, James, I'm only laughing just because Dejphon's back saying I'm winding you all up.
Yeah, do you know what?
So quick. I love that. Quick.
As a parody account, it has been fantastic, and I love how some people in the chat actually think it's him, like the real person initially, and then they'd probably twig on and go, "Oh yeah, it's not. It's not him." One here from Gary, and I've seen a lot of people saying this as well. Any idea if Adam Shaw is still wanting to come on and do the podcast? Do you know what? It was probably the worst timing ever for us to have secured that podcast, because literally, what was it, like an hour or two before it was announced that Milan Mandaric was going on Radio Sheffield, and he said what he said, and then it was like literally. Could he not spoken to him like a week before? Like we'd have been able to speak to him and get it out.
Easier. Yeah, it would have been so much easier. So for those people who don't know, obviously we did cover this a little bit on Sunday. Adam, when I've spoken to him again since, has just reaffirmed his commitment to actually coming on and speaking on the pod. However, the difference is, because of situations like this today, there is no time frame on that. I am afraid that there just simply is going to be no time frame on that, because again, as you can see with the statement today that came totally out of left field, nobody knew that this was the case and this was there. If you were in that position, yes, whilst it would be wonderful from I want the news now, I want to know what they've got to say, I think also you have got to, again, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth here, and I certainly don't speak for anybody. If it was me in that situation, I would just let him eat himself again and just sit there and just go, yeah, you keep fucking up, kid. Like, you keep going.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I also think as well, for as much as it would be great for, an episode of EastEnders, the whole backwards and forwards, and kind of, for then it's almost be like, he says you're lying now, that sort of thing, purely from a soap opera perspective. There's also the element of what would it achieve? Like, I don't, it gets to a point where actually, someone at some point has to kind of take the moral high ground here, and
it isn't going to be Chansiri. Nicest will in the world, it just isn't going to be Chansiri. But again, I cannot stress this enough. He has reiterated and reaffirmed his commitment and desire to come on and do it at some point. I just can't give a time frame. I am really sorry, all.
Yeah, that's fine. Simon's got a question that I don't really think I'll be able to answer, although I have had a quick Google. How do Dortmund and other clubs have the fans own the club? Obviously, that is their model, isn't it, for the Bundesliga
model? Yeah, it's their league-wide, football-wide model that is 51-49, isn't it? It's 51%
it's
49.
It's the 50 plus 1 rule, is what they call it. I did what some other guy did and put when they put the response from the consortium, all they did is went on ChatGPT. I mean, you can tell when it's from there. But I did the same and asked them about this question when I saw that the question came up, and it's basically saying that the fans own shares in the football club, so fans can actually buy shares for a fee. I asked kind of like, how much is it really? And again, I'm not taking this as gospel, but this is what AI is telling me. It's like anywhere between £60 and £100, depending on what club it is. I'm guessing that's for one share, and that's an annual fee that they pay in. I'm guessing that's obviously how they're able to get the funding or the money drawn up. I mean, do you? I mean, I don't know how this would ever happen, and I don't know how this came in the Bundesliga. Maybe someone that follows German football probably has the answer to this, or probably one for another day. But do you ever see some other sort of model like that entering English football, or do you think we'd benefit from something like that?
Would fans benefit from it? Absolutely, James. Would Premier League owners and ownership models benefit from it? Absolutely fucking not. So it's never going to come in. It was. I'm happy to be proved wrong on this. My understanding of the stuff surrounding German football was that fans got so sick and tired of it, and they did manage to get. Similar to what I suppose in this country is happening with the football regulator, there was a need for governance surrounding football ownership in Germany. This gave fans a huge say, which is why ticketing is very fairly priced in Germany, which is why beers are very fairly priced in Germany, which is why the whole fan experience is much better. Again, German football is not perfect. If you look at RB, if you look at the RB clubs, if you look at Bayern Munich, there are ways around it. There are ways to make certain clubs incredibly successful or, give them a better footing to be successful. Don't get me wrong. I think on the whole for German football, I think it's a benefit. Do I ever see that coming into place here? No, England went down a capitalist model. The capitalist model was the Premier League. And since then, everybody's been playing catch up.
Just to kind of correct what I said, they don't get shares. It's a membership model that they have in Germany. So, but what it does buy you is the right to vote on matters at the football club. Just
to pull this one up here, James, which is Sam Green. Luton are fan-owned. Luton, in theory, are fan-owned, yes. The club was bought when they were down in the... what is now the National League, was at the time the conference, with a plan to get themselves the Premier League. However, those fans have appointed people within that structure to run and lead the business. From there, again, if you speak to Luton fans, they are currently really frustrated about the fact of, obviously, they've touched the ceiling with the Premier League, but now they find themselves in League One after falling through the tap door twice, and this is to do a whole brand new stadium that they are, nicest will in the world, never going to be able to fill.
Yeah, as Adam says, Exeter are fan-owned. I'm just actually looking at a list as well. AFC Wimbledon are another one that are fan-owned as well. Obviously, Phoenix Club. Sorry, I can't mention that. Apologies. But I suppose
there are examples, but there's nobody unbelievably successful that is solely fan-owned, if that makes a sense. I suppose the biggest success story, I genuinely feel this is the biggest success story, is AFC Wimbledon. They are the biggest success story of a fan-owned club who have the fans right at the core of it, because it is a Phoenix club. It was born out of their club being sold and moved up the road, 40, 50, 60 miles.
Yeah, that was mental. I can remember when... I was sat on the grandstand when I had a season ticket there as a kid. I can't remember what year it would have been. It's not hard to find. It'll be the year that MK Dons were formed, and
early 2000s, I think, James.
Yeah, and I can remember I was like saying to the kid who used to go with, like, they literally brought a minibus. There must have been about 7 fans in that upper away end, and I was like, they literally totally killed the football club. Remember when they used to play at the National Hockey Stadium, didn't they? It had the multicoloured seats and everything. To be fair, they could move back there now and they still wouldn't fill it, would they, to be honest?
No.
No. But anyway, right, I think we're going to wrap things up there. Thanks everyone for joining. Matt, we'll be back, won't we, on Sunday, talking about Danny Röhl and that whole situation. Just quickly on that. I suppose that it was inevitable that was going to happen, really. It's just happened probably, 3 months, a little bit too late?
Yeah. Just, this all could have been so much easier if there hadn't been all of the posturing and the pretending to still be in charge of this ship. 3 months ago. But again, I mean this nicely, James. It's pointless crying over spilt milk. That situation has long been and gone. The same with the ownership, apart from the owner is still here. That ship has sailed. It's never going to turn around. It's never going to get better. It's only going to get worse. One thing that this has done, I do genuinely believe, one thing that this has done surrounding the ownership is it has just solidified just everybody's viewpoint again, that this man is not fit and proper to run the football club. And I, for one, am really excited to see what the plans are moving forward for further fan protest.
Yeah, James says he might get a mention on Sunday. James, we've seen all your messages. We've seen everyone's messages coming through. there's far too many to read read them all out. It's mental. Super chat. We might read it out, just saying. But don't do it now because we are finishing. Do it on Sunday instead. But yeah, we are going to be talking about Danny Röhl and that whole situation in more detail on Sunday. Kind of also like looking back at his time at the club, and I know it's not been officially announced. Maybe it might have before we go live on Sunday. But kind of talking about the whole situation really, and the good bits, the bad bits, and everything else, and we'll be doing that on Sunday night. So make sure you subscribed. Have we got to 3,000 yet? I don't think we have. So if you're not subscribed, press that subscribe button, and we'll see you again on Sunday evening. Cheers, guys.